So so I said, well, what's the part? And she said, it's a true, based on a true story. It's to play the campus rapist in a feature film with so and such and such. And and because I was not a saved person, my first thought was, how much does it pay?
It's pronounced Joseph Granda, right?
It's Granda. Yeah,
Granda.
It's Grand with an A at the end.
Granda.
Yeah.
Is it like
Yeah.
your stage name or is that your real name?
No, actually, that is my real name. That's
Okay.
my father was from Cuba.
Okay.
And but for many years when I was an actor, I used my mother's maiden name, so I was known as Joseph Lindsay,
Oh, really?
which I still pay taxes in that name.
Oh.
So yeah, and that's because there's this weird thing in the Screen Actors Guild that performers, because you're basically a product,
Yeah.
So if you're Coca-Cola, you can't go, I'm Coca-Cola too.
Okay.
The older you get, the more you realize I'm just not that unique of an individual. I'm, aside from my faith, I'm just another dopey 50-something guy with knee problems.
Which is, yeah, we all kind of, desire to become that eventually, I guess.
Right. But my knee problems, for the record,
Yeah.
are not from being on my knees towards anything that's asking me to be on my knees.
Oh,
In the taking the knee or the
or none of that, just because
right.
you have bad knees.
Right. Is this video also?
Yeah, this is also video. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then I won't.
Yeah, won't pick
clean
your
my
teeth
with that.
at the same time.
I just ate beef jerky, so.
Oh yeah, it's a necessary thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. So were you always a Christian when you kind of went into the film business? Because like you have a lot of.
Oh heavens, no.
No, you weren't. So
not by a long shot.
Not by a long shot. So like, what brought you to that point of salvation?
Well, I'll tell you, so as a person of a reformed, call me a Calvinist, if you will.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have ever purposely chosen to become a Christian. I know that sounds terrible, but here's why. My life is fantastic and better, but it's more difficult because I cannot live normally in the world. So that said,
yeah.
I got baptized almost 11 years ago. So the majority of my life, I have been a secular, Babylonian, sort of living in Hollywood and New York City and indulging in culture.
Okay.
So, but if you want to talk about the slow transformation. So I got to this point in my career where I was like working and I would get offers for work. And one day I was in my agent's office and she said, I've got an offer for you. It's a great part. It's going to be a big movie. They always say that. I don't know anything. Nobody knows anything in that town.
No,
you can get through that town if you can be fearless and walk through BS. You can make it. So I said, well, what's the part? And she said, it's based on a true story. It's to play the campus rapist in a feature film with so and such and such. And because I was not a saved person, my first thought was, how much does it pay?
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, and then I had this brief moment of clarity. I've had 3 brief moments of clarity. One was at sobriety, and then this one. And so I said, I'm not so sure I want to do that. Yeah. And she said, because you go out on TV or a feature film and you do that stuff in real acting, you have to make it believable. And I said, I'm not so sure I want to do that because then people see it and your mom sees it and it's just not good.
No.
But I was having a moment of clarity and I said, I'm not so sure I want to do that. And she said, but it would be good for your career. And I know what she meant. Yeah. But I left there thinking, what is my career that simulating rape
Hmm.
in a movie is good for a career,
Yeah.
and they dropped me. I went and did another movie,
Mhm.
and I just had this slow progression of like, I don't know what I want to be or do, but I
Mhm.
got to get out of here. And I feel like I'm part of a problem that I don't understand. Now,
Yeah.
mind you, at this time too, I had spent a huge portion of my life as a very devout and practicing Buddhist.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, to the point where, I've spent a week in silence, in
Hmm.
meditation with monks up in the hills. I mean, it sounds more romantic than it is, because
Yeah.
when you live in Hollywood, if you want to go and meditate with monks, you just look it up and
Just
you
go.
go meditate with monks for $400. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But then I did live I lived in a Buddhist temple, um, as a sort of a intern, and I took care of things, and I lived
And that
there, and
was that was in California, or
that was in California. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I have to say this,
Mhm.
it's a godless religion. I mean, it
Mm.
doesn't talk about
Yeah.
having a God. Um, it's not a saving path.
Mm-mm.
It did tremendous things for me, for my mind, because it's
Mm.
really where it's at.
Mhm.
To get my head straight, to find out, where do I go from here.
Mhm.
um but ultimately my problem with Buddhism was that it left me feeling like a 5th century Roman eunuch,
Really?
like, because
Yeah.
it asked you to just be like, the sort, well, that these
Yeah.
people who greet you like namaste, and I just want to, like, I high five them whenever they do that,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I smack their hands, I go, yeah, right out. So it just, it didn't match me, but it did tremendous things for my life at the time.
Hmm.
It's of no use to me anymore. I still meditate, but now I do contemplative prayer, and
Yeah. That's a very different thing. Yeah.
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 So
Huh. So
it,
like from that point, um, so obviously like you were a Buddhist at that point, right? And
right.
and then there was this moment of like, I need to figure out something else. So was the going to Buddhism the result of saying I need to find something else, or is it something you were already doing?
Well, I think it was I look back on it, it's all a
Mhm.
progression
Yeah.
of Christ going, all right, look, okay, all right, I could do it now, I'll do it
Yeah.
later.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, you want to hold some more, and
Yeah. Mhm.
so my life was um raucous,
Okay.
in what secular world would think of as fun.
Mm-hmm.
Los Angeles is the only place where somebody can break your heart, and then you have to drive past a billboard with their face on it for the next 3 months.
Ah.
So that's how weird that town is.
Yeah.
um and so I was searching, so I got sober,
Mm-hmm.
I got into Buddhism. I got tired of the industry. I packed up, and having never been to Colorado,
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Colorado. I sold all the things I did still own, and I came out here to start afresh.
Yeah.
And yeah, anyways, I still doing some writing and working, and then I opened up
Mm-hmm.
a restaurant here. I opened up a tiki bar, and had some partners. It didn't quite work out. There was some shadiness. I had to sue my partners. They settled, and then I had this 1 month old baby. This all happened all at once.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I said to my wife, I said, oh, and mind you too, since we're talking about religion, I was raised in a cult of Jehovah Witnesses, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, they put blood over my doorway. They don't come to my house anymore, or whatever it is they do. They put you on a list, because I
Yeah.
invited them in. I'm like, hey, do you know about the history of Jehovah Witnesses? Because now I know, like,
Yeah. Exactly.
started in Brooklyn with a guy and a bottle of gin.
Yeah.
So so there's that. But
Mhm.
so I had these people who were in my life, and some of them close, and in all this, I was just like, is that all there is? It's just, everything's about money. Everything's
Yeah.
about money. People betray each other over money. And so I said to my wife, because we live near the church that we got saved in, that
Mhm.
we have since moved on from, since I got quarantined and came out of Calvinist.
Yeah.
So we went to this. I said to my wife, let's go see what the crazy Christians are doing in town. Cause
Yeah.
it's the biggest church in Colorado.
Oh yeah.
And so we go down there. It's Flatirons Community Church.
Okay.
And we go in and we've got like this baby in the stroller. It's a 1-month-old. I'm being gently, mind you, before this, we were at my Christmas party.
Yeah.
And all this was going on, the legal stuff and newborn baby. And driving home from that party, this is how I believe, listen, God's never talked to me.
Yeah.
It would kind of freak me out if he did.
Yeah.
But I know that I was crushed that day. I had to pull over. I was so overwhelmed. I say things that I used to laugh at people for. I feel like I was overwhelmed with the Spirit of the Lord in hindsight, but something was just absolutely crushing me at that moment and going, it's like in Buddhism, when somebody betrays you or destroys you, what you realize is, oh, all that ego, all that stuff that I thought I was, that's not who I am.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and God, for me, God came in. And so we started going to this church, and I said to my wife, I said, we listened at the door, and because we waited till it already started, because you know, we didn't want to like see snakes or speak in the tongues. I didn't know. I hadn't been to church and ever really. And so we lean on the door, and this is so big church.
Yeah.
And the band is playing Rush by Limelight.
Oh no.
Yeah. And not the gospel version.
No. Oh yeah.
And so I turn to my wife and I go, okay, this is either going to be really cool, or they're going to talk spaceships 28 minutes in and we're out of there. and so we go into the back like bad students and sit way in the rear.
Yeah.
And I said, and the pastor, I didn't know who he was, but he's the pastor there. He's a sort of it's a very male, like, man, many to lead. And, you know, anyways, let's punch each other. And the pastor came out, and he's a muscular guy. He's got some tattoos, you know. And I said to my wife, I go, that's got to be the stagehand. And he started talking. And listen, I know that oftentimes those big, huge churches, even me at some time, I go, oh, I can't believe I got baptized, which is my pridefulness and my arrogance. But that's my mind. Yeah. But I got saved in a big, huge church that uses smoke machines and plays Limelight by Rush, and a pastor with tattoos and muscles comes out and he talks about Christ in the most simple and specific way that I had never heard it before. And then he showed a video. Here's what really, of him at a firing range with his AR. And he's talking about what it takes to hit a target 100 yards away with a wind of 25 miles an hour. And he's going through the science of it, but he's showing that it was brilliant. It changed my life, you know? But he's basically, it's like, this is how you have to use this instrument, this tool to hit that target. And then he related it to, what are your targets in life? And if you're not letting that target happen, you're wasting your time for good outcome. And I was like, no one's ever told me that before. I just always heard I was going to hell, you know? And we kept going, but here's what I did. We went every week, and while we were going, I started reading, you know, I read the Gospel of John, I read Genesis. I don't recommend people just, oh, here, read the Bible. No, read Genesis and read the Gospel of John, and you know, if it hits you, then we'll talk. Start with Leviticus. I'm sorry, did I say Leviticus? I meant Deuteronomy. So I read everything I could historically, because I was also basically unemployed. I had a settlement from this lawsuit. I read historically the historical accounts of Christ. I read the Romans account of Christ. I read other books. I read, I read Dinesh D'Souza, What's So Great About Being Christian. I read everything I could, because what I was doing is I was trying to disprove what my heart already knew, because I was crushed a week later.
Yeah.
My ego still going, no, nonsense. So so we're driving home one day, my wife and I, and I look over at my wife and I go, honey? She goes, yeah. I go, I think we're Christians. And she goes, I think you're right. And we got baptized there, and my daughter goes to a private Christian school. And we, as I said jokingly, sort of, that I got quarantined and came out of Calvinist, is what happened is I started watching Jeff Durbin.
He'll do it for you.
Yeah. I love that guy.
Yeah.
You know, I watched 9 hours on the, on the Tulip. We got to come up with a new one.
I know. Bacon, I think, is the new one. I think I've heard that's Bacon.
Bacon?
Yeah.
What's
Bacon's
that?
the new one. I think it's we're all bad people. We're all bad people. Yeah. And then A is, I can't remember. I have to look it up.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Text it to me.
I'll text it to you. Yeah.
So where was and then Doug Wilson, which I'm sure you know Doug Wilson. And so watching all these videos, and then I watched the movie Calvinist, and I'm like, first off, like every good person who this happens to, I'm offended.
Yeah. No.
This is offensive to me. Yeah. I made this choice.
Yeah.
I chose myself to go to God.
Yeah.
Because I finally needed some help.
Yeah.
And until it sets in, then you're like, oh, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I couldn't make a decision like this.
No.
Like, listen, I've lived on the other side. In a worldly sense, it's a lot of fun if that is the only reward that you're getting for your soul.
Yeah.
And where everything is relative, like nothing's good, nothing's bad, except what you did to me,
Yeah.
So then I showed my wife, we started like doing some study and this and that. And she was like, I go, it's offensive, isn't it? She says, it's totally offensive. My wife is very smart, type A, like she's an executive at a tech company. She's like, that's totally offensive. I'm like, that's the whole point. Yeah. That's the whole point. That's what makes it real. It's offensive. Like the whole gospel is offensive. I keep stopping myself from saying long stories so short because I'm on a podcast.
Yeah.
And you can talk for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I started watching Douglas Wilson, and then I started reading some of his books. And then I read Ride, Sally, Ride.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. So I read this book. I'm like, oh, that's a great book. That book should be a movie. And I put it down, and then I'm reading it again. And my wife goes, you read that book again? I'm like, yeah, it really should be a movie. She's like, well, why don't you make it? I'm like, all right. So I write a letter to Douglas Wilson, and I say, hey, I think your book, Ride, Sally, Ride, should be a movie. And the screenplay should be written by somebody who is a professional and who has a proven track record, and somebody who has made movies more than for his mom.
Yeah.
And so he wrote back, if you ever have an exchange with him, my suggestion is no more than 3 sentences.
Oh, okay.
And then he'll read it.
Yeah.
And then he'll answer in 2 to 3 sentences. And so I had I said, can I pitch you guys, him and Aaron Wrench at Canon Press. And so they came on, and so here's how I pitched him. I've never told anybody this story.
Oh yeah.
Because I hope it's okay.
Yeah, no, go for
it. It's okay.
Yeah.
So I do all this research. I read everything I can about the book, what people think about it, the people and some people hate that book, especially people who are not of faith. And just because Doug wrote it.
Yeah.
And I create this whole pitch deck for them, you know, and then it's on the Zoom, and I get Doug. He was like, please do. You know, I was like, do I call him Pastor Wilson? Are we going to pray first? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And mind you, this is like 2 years, because I'm 2 years ago. Yeah, about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, because I'm well. The pitch to him is I show him a real picture of this granola older woman, and I also have her avatar that she made of herself.
Yeah.
And this is my very first thing I pitched to him. I said, this woman, I can't remember her name, is so and so, and she lives in Costa Rica with monkeys that she feeds every day. And they're both looking at me like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I'm like, right?
Yeah.
She looks like everything you would out of a liberal casting, you know?
Yeah.
And they're like, and I said, this woman so hated your book that she has reviewed every single chapter online, all 13 of them. She is incensed by your book. And that is the most important reason why we need to make this movie. Because this woman, I had her bio up there and stuff. People think that the characters in your book are too caricature or those aren't real people. But here's a real person that hates your book that would fit perfectly in this.
Yeah.
And so I go through this whole pitch, you know, what I think it should be, and I compare it to I think I had The Big Lebowski, like that sort of vibe to it, you know, and a couple other Coen type brother movies. And then you know, I say like time frame, and then you know, I basically say I will do in the movie world to help friends, whatever, but just so we can talk turkey here, if you guys are interested. The only thing I don't do for free anymore ever is write.
Yeah.
I won't write your script for free. I won't write anything for free, because I did that once. Like, we're going to make this movie. We're going to make this movie. You're going to get 45%, you know, because, you know, if you're a writer, it is a very long, arduous, painstaking process. And because of my addictive nature and my type A personality, it is all consuming.
Yeah.
It's all, I mean, I set a schedule from 4 a.m. to on, you know, and it's, my wife goes, oh, my husband's writing. I won't see him again. I mean, I wasn't like J.D. Salinger or anything. I didn't beat my kids for knocking on the door, but, so then I end, so, you know, and we talk about that, because I didn't want them to go, I wasn't fanboying them. I was giving a serious business proposal of that, you know, and why this needs to happen, why we need to make these movies.
Yeah.
And so I end the pitch with, and if you guys aren't interested into a screenplay, I would like to ask you permission to make a movie about a woman who lives in Costa Rica with monkeys that is obsessed with a book called Ride Sally Ride, and it's destroying her life. Which I would have done if they said, no, we're not interested.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so back and forth. And then we lots of talking. I said, so, you know, I really think that I should come up there and we should break bread. And so you can see that I'm not crazy, and you know. And so, so that was my first. I went up to Moscow and I met with, you know, him and all his team. And so I'll tell you something funny. So he had me at dinner for his house. He had dinner at his house with his daughters and his wife and their husbands. And, you know, I told him silly Hollywood stories of, not debauchery, but just goofiness and stuff, that people that I've met. And, so this is like really funny. So we're all, and we go to the kitchen, and there's this big dinner table, and I go to the dinner table and I sit down, and I'm like, you know, I'm trying to and I look around and all the men are still standing.
Oh, I know.
I was like, oh, sorry. I was like, I didn't know we did that here. which is great,
Yeah.
which is great,
Yeah.
you know.
But a
But I
cultural
can't remember
shock.
the last time the men waited for the women to come, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah. So anyway, so I went through the whole process. I wrote the screenplay. They loved
Mhm.
it. I had put some investors together, and I talked to some actors, and
Mhm.
I like to think that because of the strength of the script,
Mhm.
that they wanted to make a bigger budget movie,
Yeah.
you know, because we
Mhm.
were looking at like $3 to half $1 million, and they really
Yeah.
think they want to do it right,
Mhm.
and they don't want to option it to me to go off and do it, which is I totally get.
Mhm.
Um, but I think when the time comes, I mean, I had a talk with him earlier this last week, and
Mhm.
Doug actually, he said, he answers. He says, oh, I would love to make a ham and cheese sandwich if we only had some ham and some cheese up here in Moscow, but we just don't have the bandwidth and
Mhm.
financing to do that right now. I was like, so
Yeah.
on I went. I have other projects, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
So
So yeah, where were we? Oh yeah. So I kind of wanted to ask you, so like in going into the church, did you have any like preconceived notions about the church? I mean, I noticed that one of the movies you did early on, I think it was with Robert Duvall, was The Apostle. And I don't know how big of a part you played in that. But I think it's about a charismatic
yeah.
pastor. So like what were some of your
Well,
preconceived notions?
about the church. Well, first
Yeah.
off, let me clarify. I have tried many times. I was not in that movie,
Okay. Really?
and I've tried many times through the Screen Actors Guild and through the IMDb to have them remove that. And just to be honest, I would have loved to have been, but
Oh, really?
I know the movie. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
So my preconceived notions of the church were
Mhm.
everything that people have, for the most part, preconceived notions, because the only information they get about the church is
Mhm.
from mainstream culture, of popular culture,
Yeah.
and they all have their messaging out there, and you're the one who
Mhm.
listen. It's all in the Bible. It's like if you follow me, they're gonna hate you.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know, it's like it's the proof is in the pudding. So
Mhm.
you know, um, so I think first off, everything that I thought it might have been, I was totally wrong. I mean, I have the
Mhm.
best, most interesting, real friends. You know, one of the definitions of friendship is someone who would willingly give their life for the chance that you may survive.
Mm. Yeah.
So, and I think I have a couple of people like that, as I
Mhm.
know I am to a couple of people that I've never had in my life before, and that's because we have the blood of Christ
Yeah.
in common,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I think because I knew that I was on a spiritual journey, I
Mhm.
was much open to the idea,
Mhm.
knowing that it was nothing like what I was told as a child. You
Mm.
know, Jehovah Witness, like knocking on people's door, like, "Hey, sorry, I can't play ball with your kid, but can we come in your house and convert you to this thing?"
Yeah.
You know, it's
Exactly.
like you're not allowed to have any dealings with the world. It's the weirdest thing. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
they wouldn't come, they would never have me in their Jehovah Witness would never have me in their home as a secular person for dinner.
Yeah.
But they want to come in mine and tell me about, their book, and not even try and sell me like a vacuum cleaner or something,
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
like let's get something out of this.
Yeah. Mhm.
And like I said earlier, I think the contemporary approach
Mhm.
that church did spoke to me. There's no crosses there. It's literally it's a very cool sort of architecture. It's literally an
Mhm.
old Walmart and an old Albertson combined together.
Really?
It's a huge church. It's a huge
Wow.
church. And listen, they've
Mhm.
done great things there. My
Mhm.
kid started school there. Now she goes to a different school.
Mhm.
But just to wrap up my talk about Douglas Wilson,
Mhm. Yeah.
is that the last time I was there, last summer, I
Mhm.
was up there because we thought this was going to really happen. And we were going to shoot Moscow as Boulder,
Oh wow.
Colorado. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so I asked him. I said, "Hey," I said, "So we've been looking for other churches because
Mhm.
I need a deeper understanding of this.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, you got to go see our brothers at Trinity Church Denver. And so and of course I'm still a sinner, so I look it up. I live in a different town.
Yeah.
And so I look it up. I was like, my first thought is sinful, like, ooh, that's kind of a drive.
Yeah.
Because it's in Denver.
Yeah,
It's in
exactly.
Denver. So it's on Sunday when there's no traffic, it's a 15-minute drive, 20-minute drive,
which isn't bad at all. Yeah.
On Monday morning, it's a 90-minute drive. So so we went there and became members, and it's been great.
Very cool.
Yeah,
very, very cool.
So I wasn't in the Apostle.
You were not in the Apostle. Oh, man.
I was not.
So you don't know Robert Duvall, or
I don't, but I wish they made actors like him today.
Yeah. So The Healing Garden is that like the first movie that you directed?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what, like in the time scale of your like coming to Christ and everything, like where was that in your in that sort of timeline, if that makes sense?
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, I knew that once I got baptized that I needed to have a talk with God. I prefer to text, but he only talks.
Yeah.
And like, so I was like, and I'm very casual when I talk to God, the same way I would talk to you, because like, why be something I'm not, like, hello, dear God. Like he'd be like, knock it off.
Yeah.
Be yourself at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I have a sense of humor because God has a sense of humor. And so I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Hey, I'm a big fan of donuts. Yeah. I've owned restaurants before. I thought, if you want me to open up donuts for Jesus here in my town, I'll do it.
Yeah.
But everything that started coming at me was the movie business.
Yeah.
Without me reaching out, like, oh, hey, are you interested in writing something? I'm like, well, are there people raping each other in it?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't write that anymore.
Yeah.
Like I turned down some horror movies. Like, yeah, I know you'll want teenagers, premarital sex, and then getting cut to pieces. Like, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, what happened? So and everything that sort of kept coming into my. I wrote a screenplay. I thought, okay, well, let me see. First off, let me watch a whole bunch of Christian movies.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Wow. I mean, as the cinephile, listen, first, let me say this.
Yeah.
Any Christian out there that feels moved to be creative, to express their faith in film, do it.
Yeah.
But also own it and be honest about its outcome.
Yeah.
And if the only thing that's outcome is financial, I hope you're doing good things for that, because you're certainly not helping young Christian independent filmmakers fund their projects. You're just not.
Yeah.
The Peerflix people and the brothers, whatever whoever those guys are. I don't mean to disrespect the Kendrick brothers. Yeah. Great for them. But if you hear this, what are you doing for small independent filmmakers? Because I have some great stories to tell. Anyways.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, okay, well, these movies are really, here's the fundamental problem, in my opinion, about faith-based, a term that I loathe. Because when the Hollywood, they don't go a lesbian movie, they just put a bunch of lesbian stuff in it, or gay stuff. I thought, all right, well, let me see if I can write what I would think to be a movie that has God in it and people of faith. And so here's my suggestion to anybody out there wanting to write a screenplay. And this is what I did and tried to do, is make it the story about things that happen in life to everybody, but just make your characters happen to be decent, struggling Christian people.
Yeah.
Not like, and don't put preachers in it. Stop making movies with preachers in it. If your first instinct is like, it's going to be about a preacher, and so I wrote this screenplay called Out of the Flatirons, and I'm like, well, I'll send it into that Christian screenplay contest, which those are all, listen, no offense to them, but you know, it's kind of, it's a dog and pony show at the end, and it's an award show.
Okay.
Which I also love. I mean, you get some. So anyway, so I send it in, and out of 700 screenplays, it finishes in the top 20. So I'm like, okay, so I'm on to something.
Yeah.
Right. So they're like, oh, I didn't win anything, not even a coffee cup. It's called the Kairos Prize. They do it every year. And so I thought, okay, so I sent it out to some Hollywood people. I'm like, yeah, it's a good script. It's not for us. It started to go one place, and anyways, you know how it goes.
Yeah.
And so, so I started working on something else, a film that had lots of faith in it. One of the people in it was secular, and they read a tweet that they didn't like, and they canceled me. And we had to separate from all that. And now if I ever make the movie, I got to pay them each $5,000 and whatever. It's business. It's not show friends. It's show business. And so I'm kind of in this up and down, and I go to a friend of mine who owns a Christian television station in Westminster, and he just needs help. So I'm hanging lights, big lights up on the up and down thing.
Yeah.
And so this woman comes in, who's friends with the owners. It's a husband and wife. Says, so I just left this production company. I wanted to make this movie, and because they wouldn't listen to me, and they just wanted to turn it into this teenage thing and whatever. And so I just don't know what to do. And they were like, oh, you should go talk to that guy up on the scaffolding. Yeah. And so she comes down, and we talk, and she says, I wrote a screenplay. Which nobody says here in Colorado, but in the kid bagging your groceries in LA is like, I have a screenplay.
Yeah, exactly.
So I said, oh, can I read it? And she's like, sure. Like, and so she gave me this. It wasn't really a screenplay, but here was her story. She's a widower. She's a woman of means. She's a person who clearly loves the Lord. And she felt like God had been telling her to make a movie for 6 years.
Wow.
Which is it's like Sisyphus on roller skates, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I read this, and I said to her, and I think it's also really important to be honest with people. You know, when I was in acting class, I remember and I had a very famous acting teacher, and he pulled this one guy. He says, this isn't for you. You need to find what it is you're really good at and be that. And maybe it is maybe you're a set decorator guy, or, you know, but you'll never make it. I thought that was like why in LA, they'd be like, you just need to pay again.
Yeah, exactly.
So I said, you know, so this is a lots of ideas, but it's not really a screenplay. It needs to be formatted and this and that. And I said, what do you want to do? And she says, I feel like God's been telling me to make a movie. I said, okay, well, here's what I can do. Let me, for free, I will write you a treatment. Because she was a sister, you know?
Yeah.
And so I said, I'll write you a treatment of what I think, taking your ideas, could be a good story based on the type of movie you want to make. And so I put it all together. She's like, that's really great. And could we this? I'm like, absolutely. She says, so, well, what's next? I said, well, what's next is I can write a screenplay based on all of this and develop it with you. But I have to tell you, I don't write for free anymore.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what's your fee? And so I told her my fee, and she's like, okay. And she started to write me a check. I'm like, wait, like, you have to give you a contract, and then you can pay me half. And then when I'm done, you know, and back and forth. And I said, and if you give me if you really have the ability to do this, let me come along and pursue it, and I'll direct it. She's like, you will? And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
somebody somebody wants to make a movie because they can.
Yeah.
And so this is all God's work. This has nothing
Yeah.
to do with me. I was
Yeah.
hanging light bulbs.
Yeah.
He was like,
Exactly.
don't go to those guys. Go see this guy over here.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so I have this idea, and she's a real estate person. I said, show me the places. Show me what you own. Show me land that you own. Because we've got a $117,897 budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so she shows me the properties that she owns. She owns a mobile trailer park area, and then she owns this 40-acre pig farm. And I go and I take a bunch of pictures of some other places. And so I write the screenplay based on those two locations that are close to each other, a mobile home park and a pig farm.
Yeah.
And some other, little pickup stuff, but all there. And I have 14 days to shoot it. And so what the first thing I do, because of my experience as an actor, is I go and I look for theater actors.
Yeah.
I don't care if you've ever been, for two reasons. I know I'm going to get more than I need, and I can tell them to calm down.
Yeah.
And they're going to know their lines.
Yeah. It's so nice.
I can't. And so anyways, so I found the most amazing guy. And here's what's really interesting, how God works in these really weird sort of ways. So I find this actor here because he did some plays, and I sent it to him. He's he's in his 70s. I send it to him, and he goes, he didn't really reply. And then I am again, because it said faith-based, and it had a little log line of, and I said, just meet me for coffee. He goes, all right, I'll meet you for coffee. So this guy, lovely man. And I consider him a good acquaintance of mine, not a friend because of the life-saving thing.
Yeah.
I mean, lives in Boulder, Colorado, drives a Tesla. He's a devout Buddhist. And so when we get together, he starts talking, and I said to him, I understand some of your apprehension about faith-based, and I agree with a lot of like the movies and this and that, and even some of the behavior of Christians. Let me tell you, Christianity oftentimes is our worst export to the world.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because of the channels that it goes out of, and so we're talking about, and he's never read the Bible, right? So I'm able to tell him. Anyway, so he comes and he reads, and I give him the part. The guy's fantastic. If you watch the movie The Healing Garden, this guy is. He looks kind of like Clint Eastwood too. He's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And so as we're making this movie, he doesn't understand. There's a moment in the movie where he does something, and then because he plays not a pastor, he plays a Vietnam vet who was a chaplain, and the guy's lost his wife. There's a moment in the movie where I directed him to do this and then put the Bible on the ground, and he was like, oh, wait a minute, like, can you put the Bible, the Christian Bible, on the ground? In Buddhism, you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
The certain books, they can never touch the ground.
Yeah.
and I go, absolutely. I said, that's where it all started from the dirt, And so as he's trying to understand this movie, because what ultimately the movie is, he's teaching this young disenfranchised kid the basic Bible stories. It's a family movie. It's a movie that I struggled with at first, because God is asking me to make the type of movie that I don't want to make.
Yeah.
It is life affirming. It is Christ affirming. It is cute. It is funny. It has a very direct message. And I'm like, it's just, that's how it works. He's like, all right, you want to do other things? Do this first, Yeah. And then I found the little girl who plays opposite him. We had already cast the role, but when you're casting children, you always want to have the A1 and then the backup that you can call. And even better, if you can. So I worked on a movie years ago called Daddy Daycare, and all the kids in that movie are identical twins. So twin A works in the morning, twin B works in the evening, because you can only work them 4 hours each.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And so I had found the girl that I thought I wanted to play opposite him. And then this little Filipino girl comes in and was just like unbelievable. Unbelievable. We were like flabbergasted. And as she walked out, I turned to the producers and I go, that other kid just lost her job. And so she's in the movie and she's gone on to do all kinds of work. And her family, her parents were so excited because they were Christian people.
Yeah.
And so here's something that I think is really helpful for Christians. And I think we should intermingle in our business, especially in film and creative things, so we can have tension and discussion.
Yeah.
Is one of the producers said to me the first day we were shooting, she's like, can we get everybody together to pray? And I said, no. She's like, what are you talking about? I said, right now we are in the Colorado workplace.
Yeah.
I mean, I know where she was coming from.
Yeah.
I said, some of us will go and we'll pray, but we can't call everybody together to pray. And she was so disappointed because she wanted to evangelize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so sorry.
No, it's all good.
So I said, but here's something you need to remember is all of these people have read the script.
Yeah.
And they're all here working their butt off, glorifying the word of God, whether they know it, like it or not. That's what's happening here. And so it was a great experience. And the lead actor, Danny Mann, who's just fantastic. At the end, his last day of shooting, everybody gets around and they clap.
Yeah.
Off he goes. And he just started crying. He started crying. And he said, you're all such wonderful people. And I went, no, we're not. We're all hearts of stone. No, no. And I said, and he said to me, he said, I feel terrible about some of the things I thought Christians were. And I go, yeah, we're just a bunch of normal people, really.
Yeah.
Whatever weirdness you're reading about is not necessarily based in fact. And so, so I made that movie. It's been a huge hit. If you're out there, The Healing Garden, you can get it on Amazon Prime and other places. You can watch this movie with your kids or your grandkids. There's the edgiest thing in it is a fart joke. And if you're a follower of Christ and you can't handle a fart joke, then you certainly couldn't handle calling out a brood of vipers.
Yeah. Cool. So I kind of want to talk a little bit about your upcoming Breaking Laws thing for Lore. And you also worked on PKs, which is also something that will be coming out for Lore as well. What kind of led you to Lore? What lured you into Lore, and kind of got you to that new stage where you're now producing material?
Well, I met for the guys at Lore were recommended to me by a friend of mine, Christian Toto, who has a website called Hollywood and Toto. And his website looks at culture and reviews movies from a center right perspective. So he sort of calls out the stuff and he says, what about this? And so he said, you should meet these guys. These guys I hear are doing a new thing. And then it turns out they're in Spokane and I'm about to go up to Moscow again. And so I met with them and we talked about some ideas and stuff. And then the we call it at my house, we call it the pandemic babe.
Oh yeah.
Because she never really goes away. they try to keep her around. So the pandemic happened and all that, quarantining and it's so just like I was never a liberal, but I was a libertarian. Politically, when I was a secular person, I was like, yeah, whatever. I wasn't libertine, I was libertarian.
Yeah.
And so the whole, I really had that experience of government oppression. So I live in a very blue, it's not as blue as people think it is.
Yeah.
Colorado.
Yeah.
So don't hold your horses, folks.
Yeah.
but where I live is deep blue. I live in a progressive county, you know, which I
Mhm.
love because I'm like the odd man out. Like
Mhm.
my neighbor is a Bernie guy, and he comes over and we have dinner sometimes, and we talk baseball and we laugh our ass off. You know, it's
Yeah.
like I'm not going to change him.
Mhm.
I'm not going to convert him to Christ. Only Christ can do that. He knows
Yeah.
who I am.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah.
And so just the whole mass thing, my instinct to push back
Mhm.
on it. And then, you know, and then you go like, well, okay, this is happening in my life. What's the Bible say? Because everything is there. I tell that
Yeah.
to secular friends and they go, that's impossible. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, where are you screwing up right now? Where do you need
Yeah.
guidance? Like, oh, here, you know,
Right here. Yeah.
page 1348. Um, and so I was like, well, now they're talking about mandating a medical procedure on citizens of the United States. Like, it's so
Yeah.
crazy.
No, it's ridiculous.
People don't think it's crazy, but it's
Mhm.
crazy.
Mhm.
And the mask thing, you know, and so Romans 13 is where
Mhm.
I start there. This whole project started. I'm like, okay, well, what does the Bible say about? And I was so disappointed. It wasn't like push the doors down, you know,
Yeah.
get some Molotov cocktails, make a flag for your cause. It was
Yeah.
like, no, you should be obedient. You should be obedient to the
Yeah.
leaders because God put them there. I was like, what?
Yeah.
You know, and then clearly it goes on to go until
Yeah. Mhm.
or unless they're not doing the will of what would be good in the eyes of God,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. Punishing
And
those who are evil, or yeah. Yeah.
so what I realized was that, and then my question was,
Mhm.
people literally thought that a mandate was a law,
Mhm.
and a
Mhm.
mandate is not a law.
Mhm.
And most of those mandates were put on us by unelected officials.
Mhm.
So if my county wants to have the health department mandate things like a mask, then those people need to run for election so that I have a say over who's in there.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's sort of what I was like regurgitating. And then I was like purposely not wearing a mask and smiling at people. Hey, how you doing? Like, you know, and
Mhm.
I remember I went into this used bookstore to get my kids some Nancy Drew. And this little girl comes running, this little college girl comes running. Sir, you can't be in here without a mask.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm already in here.
Yeah.
And I just want to get some Nancy Drew for the kid. And I went past her and I paid and have a nice day. And so like
Mhm.
it's these weird experiences. And so
Yeah.
then I started thinking about like, well, what other ridiculous laws are out
Mhm.
there? And like lots of people are breaking the law if they have a rain barrel.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
can't make your own pesticides and use them in your own yard.
Yeah.
You know, and then I started coming across things like, which is going to be an episode of the show. You
Mhm.
cannot loan your vacuum to a neighbor in Denver. It's a city ordinance from the 1940s when there was a
Yeah.
bed bug and mold outbreak,
Uh-huh.
but it's still there. So my point is, so I'm traveling around the country and I'm going to break the most ridiculous laws I can find. And let me tell you, there are a lot of them.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then I want to have conversations with lawmakers and law enforcement about as a lawmaker, where's the gray area? Do you get do you go, yeah, he broke the law, but you know,
Mhm.
how often do you do that? What's the leeway? And then lawmakers, my question is if I'm here breaking
Mhm.
this ridiculous law,
Mhm.
and we can look back and go, that's ridiculous. Do
Mhm.
you think there's a chance that some of the laws you're making right now are ridiculous,
Mhm.
and my kid's going to come along in 20 years and do season 2, you know, or whatever,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, so after all that, I'm going to go to, I'm also going to interview, you know, business owners and like, what does it take to open a vacuum business? What are the ridiculous laws that you have to follow just to open them? Because it's so oppressive and it's so
Yeah.
petty, so many
Mhm.
laws I
Yeah.
mean, listen, to open a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
And so then at the end, I'm going to interview a local pastor and I'm going to ask him, so listen, I loaned a vacuum to a neighbor in Denver. Technically, that's still illegal. Or I
Mhm.
ate frog legs in California from a frog
Mhm.
that had
Yeah.
participated in a frog jumping contest. That's illegal. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And is it Romans 13
Mm-hmm.
You know, I realize that's all silly. It's a
Yeah.
silly, stupid entryway into the
Mm-hmm.
stupidity of our world
Yeah.
to then open up and go, all right, that was kind of funny. But here's a real question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If the government comes on my door and says it's time for you to get your shot
Yeah.
because we're looking out for you,
Yeah.
what's the answer to that? If the
Exactly.
government says you can't sing in church, but
Mhm.
the pot shops are still open and the liquor stores and the
Mhm.
massage parlors are
Mhm.
open, but you can't sing in church because you're opening your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So, and I think the people will resonate with the show because I don't listen again. There's nothing interesting about me. I'm your average. I just turned 56. I've got osteoarthritis in my knee. I found that out and I'm like, and then I researched, I'm like, oh my God, I'm like 56 million other people. So
Mm-hmm.
my point is like, I'm kind of an average Joe and I have these questions. And I
Mm-hmm.
think because of that sort of normalcy of me, I
Mm-hmm.
think other people have the same question, and I just want to go out and try and get an answer.
Huh, that's really cool. I like that.
And have a comedy. I call it my comedy crime spree.
Comedy crime spree. I like that too. Yeah. So you worked on. So you're also coming out with a podcast. Is it going to be sort of similar?
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
you can see the trailer for my show at lore.tv.
Yeah, which
It's called
I watched. It was pretty good.
Breaking
Yeah.
Laws.
Mhm.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want it to be kind of raw, like not
Mhm.
overly polished, and
Mhm.
you know, like I think it's more interesting if it was more sort of covert.
Cool. So do you want to, is it going to be more style sort of like a reality TV show, or is it going to be more like just documentary?
I think it's going to
What are
be
you going for?
more. I think it's going to be more of a YouTube style show,
Mhm.
but done well. I mean, not walking around with it. You know, I'm going to get a crew and stuff. But
Yeah, very cool.
I think when you get too polished, you get
Mhm.
away from the rawness of what it is you're trying to
Yeah.
question.
Oh,
It's like, hey, graphics, boom. You know,
Yeah.
is it Romans 13? Boom. You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
kind of like,
Mhm.
it's like, then you're every other show.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. I wanted to talk about because I know you wanted to talk about some of the subliminal messages in
Oh, yeah.
in films, because you know what, that's been one of my shticks, like ever since I went to the college, learned some film stuff. I've been doing film. Is I always see the deeper message in every film,
right.
and I'll go to people sometimes and be like why are you watching that? Like that is literally giving this, and I just want to be entertained, and I don't like that message not affecting me. So I guess we kind of talked to like, yeah, movies affect you emotionally, spiritually, so many different levels. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And to answer your earlier question, yeah, there's going to be a podcast that will launch before the show.
oh yeah.
Called Breaking Laws. And people can look me up, my name, and email me, because I'm going to have people, just everyday people, come on and talk about laws that they've broken. Not OJ Simpson stuff, but like I did 65 today and a 50.
Oh no. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the messages in, so I worked in making TV commercials too, like with directors. I'm not bragging, but just so people know, there are directors of commercial out there that make $50,000 a day.
Wow.
Easily.
Yeah.
And so working with those people, but you have to remember that when you watch a TV show or a commercial, there is nothing in there by accident.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a product, it's been paid to be there. Mm-hmm. If it's a message, it's there from their political mind. I went and saw, here's an interesting story about messaging. So I went with my daughter yesterday. It snowed here yesterday, the day before it was 85. We went to see an animated show called The Bad Guys. It's from a comic book that she reads. It's just silly wolf and snake, and they're animals, and they talk and they rob stuff.
Yeah.
And so the whole message of this is stealing is bad. So this other character, which happens to be a gerbil, comes and it's going to reform them.
Yeah.
Not in a Calvinistic sense
No.
or a Bootzer sense. They're going to reform. They're bad. They're the bad guys. It's a piranha and a wolf and a snake and a shark or something. And so he's going to reform them to be good, the good guys. And the first thing that he sets them out to do is to break into an animal warehouse that is housing hamsters and gerbils to help the people who are out front protesting the animals inside. So what the message is, it's okay if you break the law for good things, and we'll tell you what the good things are. Climate change, for Black Lives, for Pride Day. Those are the good things that we're telling you. So it's so subtle, but I'm sitting there, I'm like, now I wait for it. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see a cartoon with my kid. It consciously glosses over. It's a plot line, but he's taking criminals that are robbing gold and money and saying that's bad, but it's okay if you're an animal rights activist and you're breaking into a place and stealing what's in there that's not yours.
Yeah.
I mean, and even at one point they have the fox who's the governor of the state, and one of the character goes, "Oh, I can't believe she's like that. She was so good on climate change."
Yeah.
That's fine. That's their artistic expression. But I think we as Christians need to, when we watch, be like Christians are like, oh, I don't watch any sex. We don't watch any sex. Oh, but you watch people get hacked up or shot up or blown to smithereens, or and I can't even, a lot of that I can't even watch anymore and so you have to realize all these messages in there. I'll give you another example. There's a new show on, I think it's on Apple TV, called The Serpent. It's set in the late 1800s. It's, I don't know. I think it's literally about a giant snake in a river, but it's like got these great actors and they're all English accent. It's very regal and noble. But if you go and watch the trailer, it's snipped together in a very specific way to send you a message. At one point, there's a group of people at a dinner table and the star actress, I think it's Claire Danes, and she goes, well, that's not very progressive. You need to do better. It cuts to another scene and is saying, I know I've just never felt this way before. And then it cuts to like a snake serpent thing. And then it cuts back to the man who's a priest being tempted by this other girl. And then they insert the girl going, I've never felt like this for a woman. And this is supposed to be about a snake. It's from a novel, a snake that is attacking this village.
Yeah.
But they're sending, they said progressive, and they have their agenda. I'm just saying, it's America. If you want to have an agenda, that's great. But I think I want to be aware of it. And so one last example. And this was actually shown before the movie of the bad guys, the cartoon with the talking animals. Okay. It's for VRBO.
Oh, yeah. Verbo. Yeah. Verbo.
Verbo. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and high production value too, right?
Yeah.
Family in a van is moving and the family's coming and you can see, it's two families are going to get together and they rented this like castle thing in someplace cool, and the kids get out and it's a multiracial couple and a white couple. And did you ever realize how many multiracial couples there were in this country? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. That's great.
I got nothing against it, but like it's such a cliche now.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
And so the families are coming together, right? And this is so fast. The cameras are swooping in, and the kids are running around the big house. And there's the teenage girl of one of the families, and the teenage girl, the other one, and they're smiling. And then they come together, and it's clear that they're about to kiss, and the door shuts. So the two teenage girls.
Yeah.
It's very quick.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's still online. And the white girl has dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And the black girl has her hair curly. And even the copy on it is like, so you can be yourself with who you want, right? And
in a verbo.
And it's very, very, It's very, but these aren't two grown adults. This is
No.
grooming, in my opinion. These are
Yeah.
two young people saying, here's an option for you.
Yeah.
If you're a 14-year-old boy and you're uncomfortable around girls, well, hey, the world just says you're probably gay. No, if you're uncomfortable around girls when you're 14, you're normal.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. Yeah.
Well, I just feel comfortable around men. So, well,
Yeah.
you should be uncomfortable around girls because they're way more powerful than you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah. So there's no subtlety either.
No subtlety whatsoever.
Ultimately, in that they're progressive.
Yeah. No, I think I think I watched a cartoon recently where I think it's about a family like in the future and the robots take over the earth or whatever. And it's like
the Smiths or
it's whatever
the name of the family. Yeah.
And I remember it was really good. Like I was like, this is a really good film. Like it was about the daughter trying to become a filmmaker and her dad doesn't understand that she's like into technology. And then at the end of the film, she's gay and she has a lesbian girlfriend. And I remember just being like, this was an excellent film, like an excellent family film, because they completely avoid that all the way through. But it's things like that where it's kind of subliminal all the way through, where they kind of beat you down with normal things that you're like, there should be some understanding here. And then at the very end, they punch you with like, well, and you should understand this as well. And
and for the record, I don't want to see the little girl get together with her boyfriend at the end.
Yeah, no, I don't want to see that either. Yeah.
I don't want to see any of it. Just let it be this, like,
you
know. And the other thing, if you watch commercials, the men are always idiots.
Yeah.
They're weak, they're servile, they're scraping, they're not sure of themselves.
Yeah.
It's the watering down. Look, throughout the history of the world, when empires fall, and you can research this yourself, the first things that happen is gender fluidity. Boys can be girls can be boys with boys. It's the destruction of the race. And that's what they're doing. When they're again, I'm American. If I'm not knocking on people's door. People want to have the relationships they want to have. So long as it doesn't pick my pocket or break my leg, whatever, you know, but it stops at the door of my church and the foot of my house. You know,
exactly.
So, that makes me a bigot in this world.
No, it's the unfortunate thing, right?
Right. Because I won't recognize that you identify as cake. Have you heard that one?
Oh yeah. No, I've heard that one.
Yeah. So here, you want to hear a funny story real quick?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
So I go at this, when I want to get out of my office, I go to a coffee shop that I always go to, but the other day I had to get some actual writing done. And so I wanted to go someplace where I don't know anybody. So I go to Starbucks because I don't go there. Because the coffee sucks. Really. I mean, it's interior design is fantastic, but other than that. And so I go walking up to get to place my order, and this tall young man with the bun on his head and his stuff. His name tag says The Confusion.
What?
And I said, how are you doing today, Confusion? And he says, oh, thank you for reading my name tag. I go, that's what they call you. He goes, yeah, they call me The Confusion. He said, and I have this nice pronoun button that they gave us, and it says he, him. I said, oh, you're a he, him. He said, yeah, those are my pronouns. I said, my pronouns are winning and first place. And he looked at me like, did he just make a joke? Of my pronouns, right? These people are humorless. And I said, and I saw the look on his face of like, counseling. The word, like counseling. And I said, did you find that offensive? The confusing? And he goes, a little bit. I go, then I have fulfilled your day. And he just goes, what are you going to have? Like the kids, the kids wake up
Mhm.
looking to be offended. And so,
Yeah.
you know,
What do you got to
if you
do?
can't take a joke,
Yeah.
you know, apparently, obviously, as we know in culture, nobody can take a joke.
Yeah.
Dying art of comedy.
Yeah, exactly. That's why Dave Chappelle gets knifed on a stage, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's funny.
yeah. So I guess we should probably wrap up. It's been great talking to you. I mean, we've been
Yeah,
going
it's good
for
fun.
yeah, it's been really good fun.
Yeah, you're like we're at the Joe Rogan length.
Yeah, we're almost Joe Rogan length, which is awesome because that's
we're the podcast that people put on in the background while they're like cleaning the bathroom and
doing the dishes, changing baby diapers. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah. So is there anything else you want to like promote or say about your show? Point people in the right direction to get to it. I know it's all on Lure.
Yeah. So you could just go actually, if you want to get eventually to everywhere, you just go to josephgranda.com.
Okay.
Or you can go to Lore TV, LOOR.tv. I am getting ready to leave in June for a week. I am producing a documentary style film for listen, we're talking about Joe Rogan, for the Joe Rogan of the paranormal podcast world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his name is Tony Merkel, and he's a Christian, and most of his team is, and so they have like witches and ghost hunters, and ultimately his angle is, oh yeah, those are all demonic possessions.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm simplifying it.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, Bigfoot. Yeah, probably also. You know, and I said, no, it's an ape. It's not a woo. And so inside Sasquatch there.
Yeah.
So I'm producing his next film. The last one he did, you can watch it. It's called Expedition Dogman, and they go to New Jersey looking for the Dogman, which is supposedly a werewolf. And so we're going out to Utah for 5 days near a place called Skinwalker Ranch.
Okay.
Which has a bunch of people say they see UFOs,
skinwalkers and
skinwalkers and you know, shapeshifters. And so we're going on a property near there, and we're going to meet with the Indian tribes and do all that. And so yeah, he's got a cool podcast called The Confessionals. So get ready to do that, and maybe I'll see some ghosts and wave my Bible at them and
have a good old
that
time.
Stuff's all real though. Like,
no, it is.
That's the other thing. Like that's that's the other thing. It's like, so this friend of mine, he's a screenwriter. He's very it's like demons and you know, and it's where do you think all that comes from? He's like, well, it comes from imagination. Like, okay, let's play that game. Where's your imagination come from? Oh, it's just because I'm creative. Okay, we're getting someplace now.
Yeah.
Where does your creativity come from? Could it be a creator? And so I said, those when people in your world, Mike, talk about they're spiritual but not religious, is they want to have the byproducts of the blood of Christ in this world, but they don't want to change their life. They want to have the Christmas tree and the Easter egg hunt. Yeah. And continue to live that way. I said, the demons are real things. We live in the midst of an absolute supernatural world. And if you doubt me, you can go watch some videos from Dr. Michael Heister. It's an absolutely supernatural world. Describe them in this horror movie that you're writing, is that if you want to see the greatest lineup of demons in the world, watch the Met Gala or the Oscars, because Satan was the most beautiful angel. And the most evil people on this planet oftentimes are otherworldly beautiful in their physical appearance. Yeah. So I just summed up the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial.
Yeah. There we go.
Anyways, hey, it was great being here, man. I really appreciate it. And let's stay in touch.
Yeah, no, for sure.